What's going on, Wolfpack Nation? Leighton Smith here with Tuffy Talk here for another exciting episode. But for this one, we're going to be talking about wrestling, talking about this exciting 2021-2022 season coming up here. Again, there's so much hype this season that, I feel like we got to talk about it. And what better guy to talk about it with than the former 2018 national champion, Michael Machiavello. Mike, hope you're doing well today, my man.
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah, ready to talk some interstate wrestling?
Yeah, and it looks like from what I can see on this camera, it looks like I need a haircut too. So I'm ready to get one of those too.
Hey, the everybody's gonna look at the chain anyway, so no worries about it. For those who are watching this, for those who are listening, he's got a gold chain on. I guess it's not as quite shiny as mine, so it's so everybody will look at that. No worries.
I'm getting there. I'm trying to get there. I'm getting there.
Yeah. So again, basically what we want to do today is really just kind of talk about some of the guys. Obviously there's projected lineups. We still got a little bit. Obviously with the Citadel Open coming up on November 9th. But we'll just kind of talk about the guys, talk about, kind of some of the expectations, for this upcoming season, talk about the schedule. So, but first we'll kind of start off by just kind of going down the weight classes, and then we'll talk about the schedule as well. So first kind of start off, Mike, we'll start off with the small guys at 125. And I think obviously highlighted by Jacob Camacho. I think that he is a guy that over the last couple seasons has really come off strong. He's a guy that I think that especially last season, I think a lot of state fans maybe unfortunately remember him most for the loss against Virginia Tech against Sam Latona, who was number 8 at the time. But it was really neck and neck. It was really such back and forth that I truly do see this season, that especially during the off season, that I'm sure he was thinking about that and being like, I was that close to getting it done. I was that close. So, I expect, honestly, like kind of a revenge season almost of a sort that, I'm sure he's
US Open championship too.
That's right. That's right too. So, again, I think that he's had a strong offseason so far. I think he's definitely got the 125, by the hand for sure. And I think he's looking to do some major things this year and kind of tell Sam, you got me last season, but not this year, not this year.
Yeah, exactly.
But one guy that I wanted to bring up though, which, I think that a lot of state fans, maybe has heard about, but when he committed to us, it was talked about throughout the country, and that was Steve O'Poulin, who was a internet sensation from his younger days, where he was like 7 years old and had a mohawk and was just for those who haven't seen that, just go on YouTube, search Steve O'Poulin, and this guy, from a young age was just a beast. And I think he was actually came in as a number 8 overall prospect at the 120 weight class. So I think there's a lot of excitement with him. So Mike, I'm sure you've seen that video. It seems like this guy was born and bred to be a wrestler. And,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Steve definitely brings a lot to the table, man. He's young though, very, very young. And I think, regardless of who you are, right, there's always a transition period, right? You look at guys like Hayden and Trent, who redshirted. Camacho, his first year, was also a Super 32 champ. He was a high school national champion, right? Camacho was a very highly touted recruit as well. And so I think there's also a transition period. And so I think for Steve-O to be in a room and have a guy like Camacho to train with and some of these other guys like, Tariq Wilson and some of these like veterans who have been in the game who are going on, like Tariq, for example, year 6, right? A lot of experience, 2-time All-American, 3rd place, 2-time NCAA semifinalist, right? Like, there's a lot of experience that kind of you hope that transition happens a little quicker. And you got guys that have made the transition pretty quickly, like Trent and Hayden, for example, right? Like 2 NCAA finalists who've done really, really well. You got a guy named Camacho who's got a win over an NCAA finalist, right? So there's a lot of people around him that are kind of really, really he can pick their brain from. We got a great coaching staff, right, that's going to really do a good job developing Steve-O. So that's definitely something Pac fans should be excited about.
Yeah, I think especially myself and a lot of state fans are excited to see him in NC State singlet and seeing him wrestle on the mat for sure. So and seeing what he does over his time at NC State for sure. But then jumping over here to 133, obviously highlighted by Jarrett Trombley. He's a guy that again was super impressive. Going into this season, he was preseason ranked number 14 in the country, and again just a guy that I feel it's kind of in the same boat with Camacho, where he's had moments of real strength, and highlighted by a couple of big pins, against like Virginia Tech, and then so again, I just see for this season that again it's a weight class, especially with Trombley, that I mean has a couple of guys behind him that are strong as well, in James Joplin and Alex your Guiza.
Kuzma,
Urquiza, got it
Kuzma.
right. Okay, Urquiza. Who are both pretty high.
That's Miami man. Kuzma's
Yes.
Miami guy.
Yep. Yep. And
Mr.
so
Mr.
again,
You can start calling him Queens Mr. 305 if you don't want to say his last name.
hey, I mean, again, hey, it's obvious that the diversity is there from that we have guys from all over the country, no doubt. So, we guys from
100%,
Miami,
yeah.
Michigan, New York, it's unreal. But, yeah. So I mean, so Mike, I mean, so what are your kind of thoughts going into the season for Jarrett? In terms of what you kind of see for him, in terms of the next steps in his career at NC State.
Yeah, so I think he's on the cusp, man. I think we got a couple of guys at that weight class that are really, really good wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
Jared obviously is the name that probably most Pac fans are familiar with because he's the one who's been in the lineup mostly. And
Mm-hmm.
that pin against Virginia Tech in a moment like that where we need to secure not just a win but also bonus points for him to come up big, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that shows what type of potential he has, right? And so, you know, uh, I think he's on the cusp, man, and I really think that this year can be the year for him to really kind of break through. So I'm excited
Yeah.
about that as well. But I'm also
Yeah.
excited for all the other guys at 133 too. I mean, there's just a lot of depth in those like smaller weight classes for us, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
awesome to see. And Chom was just a tough kid, just off the mat as well, man. A lot of respect for him and his character and kind of his resilience, man. He's a real tough kid, and I'm excited to see um, how this year plays out for him.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. Yeah. Well, and again, I mean, I think that's one thing that NC State that you love to see, but that we have also had for quite some time. I mean, look at, back last year at 197, where you had Nick Arena and Isaac Trumbull, both competing, for the 197
Yeah,
spot. And I mean, both of them could easily go to most Division One schools and be a starter at 197 for most of them. So for us to have both of them
absolutely.
was huge for us, to keep fresh. Yeah, and again, I mean, and one thing too, I forgot to mention with Camacho is he was actually preseason ranked number 10th as well, and actually too for all these guys, I'll go ahead and say as well, one of the most exciting things is that preseason wise, that we were ranked in the top 20. Each of our weight classes has a guy ranked in the top 20, going into the preseason, which is really
Awesome guys.
exciting. So
Yeah,
so I'll go ahead and spoil that surprise. And then 141 is kind of the interesting, is kind of the first one where you don't have that set guide necessarily from last year, but you got a couple of really great
yeah,
options. I think highlighted by Ryan Jack, who's the younger brother of All American Kevin Jack, and then Kyle Ryan as well. I think those are the two guys that seem to be pushing, but I know that Jared Papsy as well, is a
yeah.
redshirt
Robert
sophomore,
Patch. Yeah,
that's turned some heads as well. So I think you got a lot of competition there at 141, which I'm sure Pat and Coach Hall have loved to see. So I mean, especially for
absolutely.
for
And
for
one
Ryan
thing,
Jack.
yeah,
Go
absolutely.
ahead.
And obviously, what type of pedigree Ryan comes from, where he's got an older brother who's a three-time All-American. I mean, Kevin, Kevin's a beast, man. He's on staff as well, and so he's had his older brother to kind of help guide his
Mm-hmm.
steps a little bit, to help finish out his high school career. And so obviously that's big. So Ryan's a tough kid. He's got a lot of strengths, a lot of different abilities that are going to make him a really, really great wrestler. And then same with Kai.
Mm-hmm.
Kai's really, really a solid wrestler as well. And for those who don't know, also a really good artist. I don't know if you guys saw his free expression tunnel spray painting. He went off, man. He did a great job. So,
Hmm.
but one name, the last name you mentioned, who was the last name you mentioned?
Papsy.
Papsy,
Or
right?
Papsy.
Jared Papsy's from PA, right? And PA is just
Yep,
known; it's a hotbed, right? So,
it
and
is.
and love Paps, right? There's one name you didn't mention though, Hunter Lewis. Hunter
Yep.
Lewis, I think, is also very, very, very good. And regardless of who the starter is and who the starter ends up being at 141, you're going to see those other guys do really, really well at open tournaments. And if something happens, or don't be surprised if the staff kind of tests, regardless of how the wrestle off goes, kind of test the waters with each of these guys and gives them all a little bit of an opportunity to kind of prove themselves in dual meets and in competitions, and doesn't decide, okay, this wrestle off is who our true starter is going to be. We also want to see how these other guys do, because I mean they're all really, really good, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
definitely keep a lookout for Hunter Lewis as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's one name that you failed to mention. I think Hunter's got a lot of ability as well. A really, really good Greco background, and he is a reason Pac fans probably aren't very familiar with, especially because he was hurt
Hmm.
most of the time since he's been here. This is really, I feel like, the first year he's kind of been healthy, been able to train and compete in the room. So I'm excited for Hunter. I'm excited for Ryan. I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
for Kai. I'm really excited for Pepsi as well. So it's gonna be fun to watch to see how that plays out, because I like all those guys a lot, and they're all really, really good wrestlers. Right on the verge of kind of. We'll see. I have no idea how that would turn out. So
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, and the only reason why I didn't mention Hunter is actually on the in-state roster. They actually have him listed under the 149 weight class
oh
with
really?
Tariq. Yeah. So, but again, I mean, it's. I think that's pretty much been the consensus that I feel like with this roster specifically this year, there's going to be a lot of movement between weight classes. Like Nick Arenan, who normally wrestles 197. You kind of see him more like he's actually listed under the 174/184 weight class.
Yeah.
So that seems to be kind of the trend, which is a good thing. I mean, again, it's always a good thing to have that ability to shuffle around a little bit. Um, but uh,
Absolutely.
but
I
yeah,
think it says
so
a lot of the character of the athlete too, right? Because if the coach asks you, "Hey, we want you to kind of be an option for us at these two weights," and that may not be the most comfortable weight for somebody, but the athlete still willing to do it, right? I think it's a commitment to trusting the staff. It's a commitment to that person's commitment to the team, right? Because it may not, So I think it says a lot about too. You mentioned Arena, specifically him. I think that's great to see. But at any weight, right? Any athlete that's doing that, right? I think fans should take that into recognition. Be like, oh, this kid's committed to the team, and whatever we need, he's willing to do, which is awesome to see that
mhm.
from those athletes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, I mean, I can't even imagine the discipline it takes, and for sure the commitment it takes to stick to a diet, stick and to keep you to a weight, especially if that's not your natural weight. For sure. Like
Right.
somebody like Hayden Hidley, who I mean, we'll talk a little bit later, but one of the reasons why he kind of moved from the 157 weight class was because he didn't want to go through the mental and the physical toll that it takes after 4 years of sticking to that lower weight class. Wanted to be more natural in his 174 weight class. But we'll get into him a little bit later. But and again, because I do kind of agree with you with somebody like, especially like Hunter Lewis, that he is probably better fit competing at the 141 just because of the fact that 149. I mean, right now you got a guy like Tariq Wilson who is called, this year is called a COVID senior, and with a 6 year. But I mean, this guy, I mean, he's preseason ranked number 2 in the country, 149. I mean, last year went 14-1, and his only blemish was a questionable loss, if you want to call it at that, at best, to against Iowa in the
Yeah.
NCAA semi. It's
Wasn't a
very
question.
questionable.
Right.
Yeah. So
That might call it beyond questionable. That was.
no,
I'm gonna
yeah,
say I don't think it was a pin. It wasn't a pin, but it is what
no,
it is, and
no.
Hey,
Yeah.
we got round 2 coming up this year, so I'm excited for him.
That's right. And because one stat as well, kind of a side note as well, for those statements who don't know as well, is actually all 10 NCAA champions from last year are returning, which is one of the first time that's happened in a long time. Obviously highlighted by the but the highlight is the of the return is actually the heavyweight national champion last year, Gable Stevenson, who actually won the Olympic gold medal. This a couple months ago in the Olympics, and he's returning to Minnesota, which is crazy. I that just seems crazy to me. That I mean, it seems
Yeah,
like what else does he have to prove? I mean, I don't know. But I mean, to each his own, I guess. But so again, I mean, that just shows how competitive it's going to be at NCAA wrestling this year, and and especially with guys that that again we'll get into a little bit later. It's gonna be a great year for sure for all wrestling fans. But then jumping in as well again, to kind of talk a little bit about Tariq. One of the biggest things which I loved is that we saw from him last year was I feel like you finally saw some consistency. Uh, you finally saw a guy that every single match was controlling the match. A guy that didn't seem to be off. A guy that every single match brought his best. And I mean it was consistent. I mean he was consistently a guy that you could count on to get bonus points. So I think that you saw Tariq take that next step, and I think for me this year that next step is getting that national championship. I think that that's really the next step for him to kind of
absolutely,
you know
absolutely. He's done a great job, I think, taking a little bit more ownership of his performances last year. But then also, I think Kevin Jack kind of really took him under his wing a little bit and kind of was giving him a lot of attention. It was kind of one of his main individual technique coaches, and I think Kevin Jack has did a really great job last year with Tariq too. So shout out to my teammate Kevin Jack, who was on our team in 2018 when we got a team trophy. I mean, he's doing an awesome job as a coach, and
mm-hmm.
I love seeing him do it. I love seeing him in that role. Going from teammate as a competitor to now being in a coaching role. He's doing a
Yep.
great job, and so I got to
Yeah.
give some credit to Kevin there too for some of that consistency with Tariq, because Tariq's had that ability to do that since year one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's true freshman, no red shirt. NCAA semifinals, losing to overtime to Seth Gross, who ends up winning the national championship. So I think Pac fans should know that he's had that ability. Right, he's been in the mix every single year, and so I truly believe this is going to be the year that he gets it done. So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
And well deserved. Again, I mean
Absolutely.
he's grinded it out, and I mean one of the moments I'll always remember him for is back in 2019 in the Virginia Tech regular season semifinal where he was the last match, and the Virginia Tech guy got him in a what is it, cradle or but he got headlock. He got him at headlock, and literally
Yeah.
for like the last 45 seconds of the first period, literally just kept his back off the mat, because if Virginia Tech would have gotten that pin, then we
Oh,
would
I
have
do remember
lost.
that. He tagged him,
And
right? Didn't he tag him? Yeah.
he teched him, but he didn't get the pin,
Yeah.
which is the important thing. So, yeah, so that was huge. So,
Man.
for again so definitely exciting this year for what Tariq is going to do, and definitely looking forward to seeing him back out there and seeing him finally get that national championship that he rightfully deserves. And especially again with that questionable call last year, but again, we won't mention that anymore. So, so heading into the 157 though, this is the one where again I think that Pat has said there's going to be a lot of fluidity in terms of, I mean, they're like right now, Thomas Bullard, is kind of talking about more of the 165 weight class, but there's talks that he might go down to the 157. But then
Yeah.
we got another guy right now, and Ed Scott, that I know that Pat, loves and is very excited about, that came in
Yep.
last year as a true freshman, was super impressive.
Yep.
And, so, because I mean, again, Ed Scott. One thing that I want to mention with Ed Scott is that when you look at his records, last year he went 6-6, but 4 of his losses were to All Americans. He lost to I actually have it right here. He lost to Milner of App State, who was an All American. He lost twice to Andonian of Virginia Tech, and who was All American. Then he lost to the eventual national champion from Carolina and Austin O'Connor. So those are four. So four of his six losses were to All Americans, and actually all three. It's actually the two against Adonia and then the one against Milner were very close matches. The only one he actually got blown out in was against O'Connor, who won the national championship. So again, as a true freshman, super impressive for sure. And I think that Pat wants to see him on the mat. So that's kind of my only kind of question, and especially because I think that Thomas Bullard, if he competes against 165 is very heavy this year, very top heavy. There's a lot of big guys, big names that are coming back on 165. So I think he might have a little bit of an easier road in the 157. Not necessarily saying that should play into it, but at the end of the day, we want to put Thomas in the best position to win because at the end of the day, this is his last hurrah, and we want him to go and do even better than his brother Daniel did. Win the AC title and getting seventh last year at nationals. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see kind of how that rolls out.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how Pat plays that and how the staff together as a whole, Adam Hall, Timmy McCall, Kevin, and those guys decide to as a group what to do with that weight and because both those guys have the ability to podium this year, right? And I will say, regardless of what the staff decides to do, ultimately it's up to the wrestlers, it's up to the competitors, it's up to the athletes, right? If they go out there and they earn the spot, they earn the spot, regardless of who, And so I think the staff does a good job letting the athletes do that, and giving them their opportunities to earn the spot. You're in the spot, awesome. It's yours. You don't. So that's just the way the cookie crumbles. But both of those guys got a lot of confidence. I've known Bullard. I've had the pleasure of knowing Bullard a little bit longer than I've known Ed because Ed's younger, right? Just came in on the team, within the past 2 years. So, but I know Bullard's got a lot of confidence this year, man. A lot of confidence, and you know how twins are, right? So,
Yep. So, competition.
I'm super excited for him, and then also Ed Scott is a workhorse, man. That kid wants it bad. He wants to win bad, and so that's awesome too. It'll be interesting to see. I think we'll have to find out, what Wade Bullard decides to go to. I'm not sure what the final decision is going to be on that either. So,
yeah, we'll see. But again, hey, we'll see how it plays out. We got a couple opens here to see how things play out. But and again, one last point as well, which I want to point out to state fans as well, is between the 157 and the 165 weight classes, they're pretty much all made up of either freshmen, true freshmen, or redshirt freshmen. And then you got Thomas Bullard. But I mean, so again, it just shows the youth there, and strong youth for sure. There's a lot of guys, on here like Derek Fields, who's I know his name's getting pulled up a lot. AJ Kovacs,
Kovacs.
Luke Auberg. I mean, so again, there's a lot of names that are highly recruited. That I mean, I know. Coach Hall and Coach Pat are excited about. So definitely excited to see what plays out there. But thank you all so much again for tuning in. Again, we'll make sure to continue this conversation with part 2. So make sure to continue in and join us then. And so again, thank you all so much again. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to really help support us in the channel. Please make sure to give us a like if you enjoyed this video, and even if you didn't, just like it anyway, just because, we'd appreciate it. And give us a follow at Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter or Instagram. So thank you all so much again. We'll talk to y'all at part 2. Thanks again. Go Pack, y'all.